Norm.
Here.
Dave absent. Joel.
Here.
Jim.
Present.
Mr. Andings, forgot your first name already.
Here. Wow. Pressure.
Pressure, yeah.
And Dick here. Ron. Yeah,
Proof of notice.
Up there.
Proof of notice, Dick?
As listed in the agenda.
Approval of the agenda.
I'll move.
Motion by Joe, seconded by Nora. Any questions on the agenda? Joe?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carried 6-0-1. Citizens' comments. Sue Steele.
Some of you may know that I believe, well, you're using Edmodo as a social network platform in this district, Edmodo. It's on the website. It's on the website.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I just found out from EdWeek, EdWeek Market Brief in April. It says the title is Chinese gaming giant NetDragon acquires Edmodo for $137 million. They collect the children's data. I think that's a really big problem. A Chinese company buying Edmodo. And then on Edmodo, it says that they are tightly integrated with Google Apps and the Access Google Drive and Google Docs. I believe it's your responsibility to protect the students' privacy. Is that correct? Is that correct? Are you, when our kids are in school?
It's citizens' comments, so I'm not sure the direction that I'm supposed to be going at this point in time.
Okay, well,
So you're asking questions, and I think, like, for me personally, the citizens' comments, I'm gonna do my best to stick with that. So,
Okay, well, you've answered my questions before in other.
and other times we have
so-
not, and I'm looking for guidance moving ahead, so it is absolutely,
we're-
students' privacy is absolutely very important to us.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
See, what we don't want to get into is a debate here.
Oh, I
That's-
know, I understand that. I just want you to be aware of what's going on,
Sure.
if you're not aware of it. And also, I had access to my daughter's account, and I got her password to it. I went into her account. Canvas, this is a third-party app. They have access to Google Drive. They view and manage files in your Google Drive. They have complete access to that. Build your own curriculum. They know who you are on Google. And also, Google Chrome has full access to your Google account. And that was on October 16th, or October 12th, 2016 for Canvas. I was not aware of that. Nobody told me about it. And my daughter was underage at the time. And Google Chrome, they were given access on November 14th, 2016. And if you want to look at this, I'll pass it around. I'd like it back too. So I think it's enough with this personalized learning. Too much data is going out of the school district. And what concerns me was my daughter had to do an assignment, and it actually it was an article on her personality, and that is shared amongst all those vendors. I have my her personality profile. I have it here, but that's too private. I'm not putting that out, but just so you know.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, we have resolution 1718242, approval of minutes of the previous meeting. Motion by Noel. Second by Ron. Questions on the minutes?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried 601. Any communications, Dick?
Yes, there is. National Wild Turkey Foundation, we responded to them. Dear Christina Keller, Board of Education School District of Mayville would like to extend our sincere thanks for your gift of $250 to the high school physical education archery program. Your generous gift will be used to the purchase of targets. Sincerely, Scott Stable.
Okay, I'm gonna move down to Resolution 1718250, approval of agreement with Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Consulting Agreement with the Davis Group. Need a motion for the approval?
So moved.
Motion by Joe, second by Nora.
What was the resolution number? I didn't.
250.
250, okay, I'm back.
Who was it? Introduce
Who was who?
Joe.
Joe and Nora.
Sure. Come on up, Stan. So Stan's spent a couple hours with us this afternoon, just kind of talking strategic planning and just how we can best benefit from his time spent with the school district. So I mentioned at the prior board meeting, the last one we had here in the month of May, that we're bringing him forward, or his services, so the Davis Group, his services forward to support us in our efforts to make sure that we are having equitable practices here at Mayville School District. I know during that time I talked about what was the word I was using? Cultural responsiveness. That was a big part of what I was talking about then. And Stan, in his agreement, has a recommendation to support us, or opportunities, what can he support us in? Would be strategic planning when it comes to cultural responsiveness and equity, conducting focused discussion groups with our students, our parents, our employees, and community groups, as we kind of deem appropriate, as well as if we have a situation that occurs, that he's available by phone or to come in person, any issues that are related to diversity, inclusion, and equity in our school district. So Stan had provided a presentation about his services at the CC6 meeting, the area superintendents, and I thought that he would be a great fit for our school district. So he's here tonight to talk more about himself in depth about his services, and probably could just go a little bit further than I just did as far as our discussion up to this point. So, sure.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Scott asked me earlier to give a little background on myself, so I'll do that. I'll try not to go on for too long. I usually don't go back as far as I'm going to go tonight, but I think educational background in this environment is important. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten through 12th grade. So I was in that environment, nuns, Christian brothers. My high school was also a military school. So order, discipline have always been a pretty important part of the education process for me. And I think it's really important that schools are able to run in an orderly manner. And part of the work that I do is helping school districts make sure that all of the kids are put in a position where they can function well in that type of environment. They're supported well. And so much of that has to do with communication, and it has to do with relationship building. So that's something that I work really hard with my clients in the K-12 area to make those connections, in particular with families and with kids, and to make the connection between faculty and administrators and those families and kids, so that all kids are being served well in the school district. And of course, that creates an environment where everyone's able to learn effectively. So that's my main goal in working with school districts. In some cases, there are particular groups of kids where there's a challenge. Some cases there may be a particular grade where they're seen as a challenge, and trying to tackle that and sometimes recreate and repair relationships and communication that has fallen aside is what we focus on. So I do a lot of communication with the school district and its officials and the teachers on the front end to figure out what's going on, what may need to be addressed. A lot of communication, as Mr. Sable mentioned, with focus groups and meeting with the families and the kids to figure out what's happening from their end, and then taking all that information and trying to put it together to create a positive learning environment. And then the last piece, being able to talk about, being able to be available for when situations come up, and they can pick up the phone and call. We've done it several times already where we will talk through a situation that's going on in real time and figure out a good resolution, a good way to address it. So that would serve as that type of resource as well. When I got out of school myself, I went to college at UW La Crosse. I then went back to Minneapolis where I grew up, and I taught high school at De La Salle High School. A lot of my time was spent working with kids that were identified as challenging for the faculty. So started off working with that group, created a tutoring and mentoring program for those kids to get some resources in that actually helped them kind of move forward and become more normalized in the school environment. After that, I left there, went to law school, came to Wisconsin at the Department of Justice representing state of Wisconsin agencies for 5 or 6 years, and then moved on from there. What I really like about this K-12 work is the ability to make an impact that, as you all know, our schools kind of set the foundation for where the kids start and where they're going to go as adults. So being able to have a positive impact in this arena is really important to me and really fulfilling. So I'll stop at that unless anyone has any questions.
No, you have a very excellent background, so
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll be able to help us with any way that we need the help. We need the help. So.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to it. You all have a great team. We've already had a chance to spend some time together, and I've actually had a chance to meet some of the kids too who are also great. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to work with the folks in this area.
And the administration, the team had listened to you and were very impressed with how you could benefit us. So we're looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Do you have ongoing contracts with other schools?
I do.
Can you mention anything?
The one that I know for sure I can identify as Sun Prairie. So it's 8,000 or 9,000 student school district, has some significant challenges, but so a lot of what I'm doing is relationship development with families in the school district, and then a lot of the consulting kind of on the fly. And I think Stephanie Leonard-Whitty from Sun Prairie does some work with Mayville, so some of you may be familiar with her. I work really closely with her.
Just starting to this summer for
Okay.
professional development.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She brings a lot to the table, so she'll be a really good resource for you.
You've been doing this for many years or 2 years, where you've been doing what you're doing for us, want to do for us?
So what I've been doing for years has not been in the K-12 area. That's been the last few years. I have been doing with colleges and universities and with private sector companies. That's where it mainly has been. I really started doing it with K-12 in my own school district, seeing the need there. My kids are 15 and 17.
Where's that school?
That's also in Sun Prairie. But I've been working with Sun Prairie for probably, well, my oldest is in 11th grade, and I started working with them informally when she was in kindergarten. So we got a new superintendent, and he finally said, why don't we kind of make this official? And I said, I mean, no money to money? Sure. And it really was kind of a natural fit. I miss the classroom. I teach at the UW Law School and at Edgewood College in the doctoral program for higher ed leadership, but I miss kind of the K-12 teaching environment. So it's nice to be able to be back in that environment and working with kids.
So you have an actual legal degree?
I do. From George Washington University in D.C.
Sir, I've got a question for you. Appreciate you coming out here. Can you give me a quantifiable, example of how you benefited a school district? Doesn't need to be Sun Prairie, like something quantifiable.
Sure. Well, there's one definite example that I think our superintendent and his staff would talk about. One of the first things I wanted to take on there, they have an African American Parent Network there. The relationship between that group and the administration was not functional at all. It was very negative, it was very confrontational. And one of the things that I took on at the beginning of the year was to make that a functional relationship, so that it wasn't about open records requests to beat the superintendent over the head with, and it also wasn't about not addressing legitimate parent concerns. Now we have a structure set up that's been going for this whole school year, where that group has its meetings. That group has an open invitation for the school, from the school district to come in prior to their meetings, discuss issues that are going on, get actual feedback. So now when they're going into the meetings, they're doing so with real information from the school district. No one has to wonder, or, you know what happens when people don't have information, they kind of come up with their own information. So I would say a lot of the work that we've done with kids has been really beneficial to the school district. But for me, the most important thing that has allowed them to function well has been helping to rebuild the relationship between the school district and with that group of parents. Because the attitude that those parents had is the attitude that their kids are coming to school with. So if all of a sudden that relationship is positive, their kids are coming to school with a much better view on things. And then when you have to call parents, if there is a reason to call parents, you're getting a much more helpful, collaborative response as opposed to the clashing.
I appreciate it.
So I'll just kind of add, in some of our discussions, we really talked about kind of having a focus on our freshmen, beginning the school year and onboarding and just getting everybody set up for success, as well as for reaching out to a couple families that maybe had some challenges navigating and helping us support that. And then working with the staff, use a model use the acronym VIBE model, and providing professional development to the staff in some small groups, K2, 3, 5, 9, 12 in the fall. And that it really comes down to, again, not to overuse terms, but cultural responsiveness, just kind of working with the staff, making sure that they are able to respond to the students in a positive way, and recognizing differences. Differences absolutely should be embraced. And it's almost like a little bit of a conflict resolution, it sounds like a little bit too. That comes with that. And then the other piece is just a good look at our data and any data trends that we have, and let the data speak for itself, and then kind of come up with some plans on how to address it. If we do see any discrepancies or things that we would like to see improved, then working with Stan as a consultant, say, okay, what's our action plan towards that? So that's pretty much the conversation we had this afternoon, and sounds like a good direction for me.
I've got one question for you, Scott. What's the, how is this different from our psychologists or our social people, social workers and stuff?
Okay, so in our school district, so we have one school psychologist. Her job, and by the way, they're a part of the planning process, so which is kind of fits that. So we have a pupil services team. They're still coming here someday. They know, hey, I'd love to have them come and talk about the work that they're doing. But our pupil services team, so the school psychologist's primary job for a district our size is to do special education evals, I would say. Do they qualify for special education services or not? Also, for accommodation plans in the state of Wisconsin, in the law, we've got 504 plans, which are legally accommodation plans that parents can advocate for. It says, hey, these are the things that we need to do to support those students. That's probably, and Lee can chime in, that's probably 85% of what a school psychologist does. The other 15% is providing support services for students and for staff as well. And they attend, it's called RTI meetings, response intervention meetings. They look at our K-12 system and how are we doing interventions to support our learners prior to a special education referral. So a lot of their job is to be proactive, to support the staff prior to that referral, to make sure we've done our 6 weeks research-based interventions, and we have to have 2 of them prior to a referral? 2 of them for a special education referral. So that's a lot of what the school psychologist does, versus When we talk about a psychologist outside of schools, we're really their support person, almost in that kind of therapist role. And for us, they're a small piece of it. So then what we have is we have our school counselors, and our school counselors, we have K-12. At the high school level, it's about academic and career planning, and working with parents, and it's that school to work to college, whatever that transition is, whatever's coming next. And then in grades 3 through 8, a lot of it's actually for 3 through 5, it's push-in lessons that the counselor is doing. So about 30% of her time is literally providing lessons for the kids. The other percent of the time is helping with the behavioral side of response to intervention and making sure that we're providing those support services. And they could do small group or one-on-one work, but really the counselors work more with kids as well. So when we talk about Stan, his role is kind of helping to support the system itself and taking a look at the system. And also, he's got some background in conflict resolution in the world of equity that would go above and beyond the training that our counselors and our school psychologists have. We have made an investment in our staff this year for additional training in those areas, and will continue to do so. So when we look at Stan, as we're gonna engage with him, and he's gonna kind of grow our capacity and work his way out of a job, is ideally how we look at it. But just come here, help us, give us a level of awareness, help and support us in the world of equity in the school district. And I mean, you do see 3 things: diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when we talk about this, I mean, it's beyond, we have at this board, at the board level, the topic of race has come to your attention. And that is a part of the work that Stan has been asked to, hey, can you help us kind of handle this topic and support our staff in this world? But in the meantime, it's about equity, which is, as I mentioned at the last meeting, it's about socioeconomics, it's about gender, it's about special education, and really kind of the ism world, you know, so racism, ableism, classism for a class society, and just kind of a level of awareness working with the staff and just helping us get more tools in our toolbox as our society changes. I think in general, the topic of equity, in the last 2 years, I've really heard it a lot at a national level and at the state of Wisconsin. You hear that term being used more than ever. And as we've heard that term being used more than ever, then experiencing some of those variables right here in Mayville, it was a goal to engage Stan and the staff that heard me use it, kind of get in front of it versus